If you've ever done any kind of DIY or maintenance around your house, you have probably wound up with a screw that looks something like this over time. Just round it out to where you can't get it in and you can't get it out. If you're new to DIY and you want to be able to put in a screw that looks like this, instead of this, if you'll watch this short video, I'm going to show you all the basics that a general person needs to know in order to be able to put in a screw that looks like this and avoid these type of things. All right, first let's talk about screwdrivers. You have to have the correct size. We're going to talk about Phillips screwdrivers first and Phillips screws, because that's the main thing. If you're having trouble putting screws in and out, you really should be using Phillips screws or some other type of specialty screw instead of a straight slotted screw like this one. It's always going to give you trouble. All right, so you got to have the right size. This is a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, and a number 4. The number 2 is going to be about 90% of all the screws you're going to run into. The number 1 is going to make up about 9% more, and then you're going to, about 1%, you're going to start running into these bigger ones, and it's only these you're going to see if you're working on bigger machinery and stuff like that. So let's get rid of those. But the main thing is you got to have the correct size. Now, once you've got the correct size, you also need to make sure that they're in good shape. And these are in pretty good shape. They've got nice straight sides. This one does not. It is rounded out. The edge right here is scooped in like that. Very little. That's going to cause you a lot of trouble. This one is a little more pronounced. I think you can see that one a little bit better. See how it's cut in right here? If you've got screwdrivers like this, you just need to throw them away. They're totally useless. Now what I would suggest you do is don't even use this type of screwdriver where the bit is attached into the handle like that, because when it wears down like this, now you've got a screwdriver that's useless that you can't use. Really what you should do, and what I do, is I use ones that have bits that you can change out. So as these wear down, you just replace this part of it and keep moving. So you see how nice and sharp all these edges are and how clean that point is? Okay, so you are getting way down the road to being successful driving your screws. Here's 3 different screws. It's just a small selection of what, of course, is all out there. But this is a brass screw. It's very soft. You're going to have trouble rounding this out if you're not careful. This is a steel screw that is plated with zinc. This is a common type of screw. And then this is a sheetrock screw, which is actually a hardened screw. And this one, you're probably going to break it off before you round out these edges right here, or you're going to ruin your screwdriver because it's probably harder than what your screwdriver is. So part of it is your choice of screw. This is a good choice. Brass is a little harder to get in there. You have to be a little more careful and take the tips that I give you a little more to heart in order to get these in and out successfully. These go in and out super easy. They've got nice long threads, but they're not appropriate for everything. Another thing about screws, a lot of times you will be taking out a screw that was in something like, say, a hinge on a door, and somebody's painted over it 4 or 5 times, and so the pocket here is almost completely filled up. Do not try to take this out without cleaning that paint out of there. Get you an ice pick or a nail or something like that and dig out all of the paint out of the inside of it before you try to pull it out. Because if you don't, when you stick your screwdriver in there, you see how it is engaging every bit of that socket. And that's what's giving you great success in putting these in and out. You also need to make sure that when you're driving your screw, that you are keeping your bit perfectly straight with that socket. As you move it around, this one fits so well, it's not going to come out of there very well. But let me get this worn one and put it in there, and you can see you can move it around. Now see how this one doesn't fit in that socket very well? That's going to give you a lot of trouble and make you slip. And then once you slip the first time, it's easier to slip the next time and the next time and the next time. So as you again see that fit right there? That's got you way down the road to being successful. Now I've shown this on my channel before. This is my all-time favorite screwdriver. It's made by Stanley. I'll list it in the description if they still make it. But I love this screwdriver. You can very quickly, as you're going along, you can adjust whether you're going to drive it in or you're going to drive it out. You can lock it in the middle and you can go both ways with it. You do that, you're going to be able to ratchet as you go. Other way, to come out. You can ratchet. Now, I used to hate these screwdrivers. You know, people would buy them for you for Christmas and things like that, and they were cheap pieces that didn't work very well. I love this screwdriver. It's got a nice round back on it right here, so I'm going to show you here in a minute. You want to put a lot of force down, and when you do that, this is nice and comfortable in the palm of your hand. I'm going to talk about slotted screws for just a quick second, because I don't use them very often, and if you're having trouble driving screws, I would suggest you don't use them very often either, but sometimes you have to get them out there in something that they've got to come out of there. So the same thing applies to that. You want a bit on your screwdriver that is nice and straight and sharp. You want to be able to go all the way to the bottom of that groove and fill up that groove as much as possible. And then you just got to push down hard and keep it straight as you go. It's just hard as you come around, it'll wobble out kind of like that on you if you're not perfectly straight. And then that's going to give you problems as you go around. But again, if you got to do these, get you a screwdriver. Be sure you've cleaned the groove completely out. Get you a screwdriver that fits all the way to the bottom and fills that groove as much as possible. And that's going to get you down the road as far as possibly can to being successful in driving these in or getting them out. Okay, another consideration is the material that you're screwing into. This is pine, which is relatively soft, and this is oak, which is relatively hard. If you're screwing into oak, especially if you were using a softer screw like brass, you would definitely want to drill a pilot hole. All right, a pilot hole is usually a good idea, especially on a soft screw like brass. And so, like I was saying, you just take you a drill bit, and you can see that one lays over the top of this, and you can see the threads on both sides. And it's just a little bit smaller than that center solid section right there. So this would make a good drill bit to use to make a pilot hole, say in this oak, and we'll do that here in just a minute. All right, so now let's try putting these screws into a nice piece of pine here. And let's take this sheetrock screw first. We'll set it here and let's give it a little bump there to get it started. Okay, now we want to make sure that this screwdriver is straight up and down. We're going to push down on it hard so that we're engaging this socket really well. And off we go. And we can suck it down nice and tight like that, no problems at all. All right, now we'll do the next softest screw, which is the steel screw that's zinc coated. We're going to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it a little bump to get it started. We're going to push straight down. Got it with this hand and then straight down. And one of the nice things about this screwdriver is you don't have to keep repositioning your hand. You just swivel it back and forth. Again, be sure you keep good pressure straight down. All right, now we're going to do the tricky one. This is brass, and we're not going to do a pilot hole like we probably should. Let's see how we do. Okay, there we go. Now, we were successful with all of those. The brass, I didn't get it down all the way flush because I should have done a pilot hole on that like I talked about. Because the other thing you have to worry about is they can get so tight that you actually twist the head off of it. And I didn't want to do that. So now let's back these out and then we'll put them into smoke. Now backing them out's easy. Now if they were stuck, you'd do the reverse. If it's stuck in there, you're going to push down really hard, keeping it straight, and start twisting. And once you get it to start moving, it's going to go pretty well all the way out. But again, it's kind of counterintuitive to get it out of there and make sure that you're not going to tear it up. You want to push down on it really hard because that engages that socket. And this one's going to just zip out of there. Alright. Alright, we're going to start out with the sheetrock screw, and it's going to go into this oak just fine. Same technique. You hear how tight that's getting? For a different type of screw, that could be a problem. Okay, so now for these last two, we're definitely going to drill a pilot hole, or we would not be successful. These are countersink screws, and in order to get that to actually fit down nice and flush like it's supposed to, you want to use a countersink drill bit like this in order to do your pilot hole. So let's do that. You want to just do down far enough that your head will go down below the surface. And here we go. Okay, so that's our 3 screws put in there. Again, these, I didn't do the countersunk pilot holes, so they wound up sitting a little bit proud of the surface. But this one, the brass one, the softest one, sunk right down in there because I used the correct bit to get it down in there. Alright, again, I'll list this screwdriver and I'll list some countersinks in the description in case you're interested. I hope this helped you to be successful. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to get a screw in or out and it's messing up on you and you don't know why. If you'll follow these techniques, you will be successful. Hope this was helpful to you. Thank you for watching.